Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Today we are reading third canto, chapter 2, Remembrance of Lord Krishna, and we're starting the chapter going through verse 6. First, this is my first time this semester. Who here this is their first time going to Srimad Bhagavatam? What's your name? Blake. Blake. All right. You're a dancer at the Dhammasana Brain. Thank you. Very exciting. So, first time through Bhagavatam, and you're stepping into well into the Bhagavatam. So it may seem sometimes quite intense on some of these topics that is presented. Sometimes it's straight philosophy. Okay, that's kind of what I need. I need a little knowledge to kind of get myself fixed. But then sometimes there's like wondrous activities that like, oh, can I believe that? And sometimes there are very soft, intimate, quite remarkable pastimes in of themselves based on relationship. And all of these topics of the Bhagavatam are weaved together to help us attain some of the qualities that these great devotees will hear about. Hear about these. Sometimes we'll hear about the hearer, sometimes we'll hear about the chanter. But those qualities, that is what Srimad Bhagavatam is there to help introduce us to Lord Krishna. The focus of Srimad Bhagavatam is Lord Krishna. There is no other focus. Just anecdotally, we chant Jai Radha Madhava before the classes, and someone may wonder where does that come from? Why do we chant that song? Why not chant another song? There's so many wonderful this song. And even for one who carefully goes through all the Prabhupada's lectures, the unedited ones, you kind of get, when did this start? He was always trying to start the class. He was always doing something a little different. Sometimes it was just Vande Hamji Guru Jan Kirtan, and sometimes it's the Brahmasati prayer, sometimes it's Ishavanasha. But in Gorakhpur in 1971 or 2, he started the class like this. So, And I think it caught on. It was such a wonderful experience. And then when we came back to America, established temple at that time was Los Angeles. Then it became like a daily thing. And then even sometimes he would travel again. He wouldn't do it, but when he get back to Los Angeles, he would do it again for every class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. And but then it became wherever he went, everybody knew it. Everybody came. So what is this song about? And who? And where is it from? And so it is a song. We call it a song, but it's actually only a part of a song. A five. There's five parts, or divided into five parts of a song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he is glorifying 100 names of Krishna. And in this song, what we call part 4, part 5 of that song, there are 7 names of Lord Krishna. And the specialty of those names is that these are all names of Krishna in Vrindavan. They're not his universal names like Janardhan or Mahapurush or Shirodaksh. They're not those names, the universal name, nor are they his names of his different pastimes, Nrsinga, Vamana, Kurma. Although in other places of the song, the full song, Bhaktivinoda does glorify those names, and Dwarkadish and Janardhan and Keshava. But these are just Vrindavan names, 7 names of Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava. Jai, all glories to Krishna, who is a beloved of Radha. Kunja Bihari. And so, a lot of times when you start meeting people from Vrindavan, you'll hear their children's names. Oh, yeah, my child's name is Kunja Bihari, or Bihari, or Kunja. You'll hear these names being given, and some of these names have been given also by Srila Prabhupada and others. But Kunja Bihari is he who relishes in playing in the groves of Vrindavan, or the Kunja. A Kunja is like a little forest palace. Kunja Bihari, and these Bihari is such dearness is in that. Gopi Jana Ballava. Ballava is so dear and so beloved by the gopis. Gopi Jana Ballava. Giridvaridhari. He is the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Yasodanandana. He is always giving great bliss and pleasure to his mother Yasoda. Yasodanandana. Brajajana Ranjana. And all the Brajajana. The Brajajanas are those who live in Vrindavan, the residents of Vrindavan. Braja Raja Ranjana is giving the pleasure. He's always enchanting them. And then the longest name of is Yamuna Tiravanachari. So I have yet to find a devotee who's been given this very long name, but someday maybe. Yamuna Tiravanachari. He's a vanachari, and a vanachari, we know brahmachari, and we know brahmachari. We know, but a vanachari, a brahmachari are those who are dedicating their life to study and to. But a vanachari is a chari of the. A chari means a resident of the vana, of the forest, and not just any old forest. So he's not just vanachari. He's Yamunatira vanachari. He is on the banks of the Yamuna River, that forest. And so another name could just be Vrindavan Bihari, and he is also called Vrindavan Bihari. But that's so. Why am I not wasting time? But why am I taking time? Because when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we should understand what the focus is and what the ultimate goal of Srimad Bhagavatam is to help us, bring us to, which is focus and absorption in Krishna. Krishna, who is the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, who is the Yamuna Tiravanachari, he is the Yasodanandana, but that is our focus. And so when we chant this before class, it's not just like the dinner bell. It's okay, it's time for class to hear the song, but we should try to become a little absorbed in the song. Oh, these names of Krishna, so important to me. And I'm about to hear about Krishna. And whatever we hear, sometimes we'll hear about his other incarnations, or we'll hear about the material energy being created in things, but this is all, as Queen Kunti says, Antar Bahir, he is within and he is without. He is with all everything. But this Krishna, Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, that is the Krishna that we as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we focus on that Krishna. So in particular, this moment of the Srimad Bhagavatam storyline is a very moving moment, actually, because we're hearing sometimes, obviously, when we're new, we just want to hear what the storyline is. Let me try to place this. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is all over the place with chronology. It is sometimes hearing one thing, but this later we'll hear something happen before that. And so it's not exactly chronological. But as you go through the Bhagavatam again and again and again, you'll start putting these things together, and you'll start becoming like astonished yourself just by hearing statements of the Bhagavatam. And I'll say that last semester we were studying the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And at the same time, in my home reading, I was studying the ninth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So you could say almost on the opposite sides of the Bhagavatam. There's a lot of volumes in between. But there was something very astonishing that I picked up because I was hearing it here in your study of the second canto, where Parikshit Maharaj is hearing about Krishna, all of his incarnations. And in there are like 4 verses of a description of Lord Krishna, 4 or 5, as Sukadeva is explaining the incarnations through, whatever the storyline was, whether it's Brahma repeating it or Sukadeva saying it exactly. But there were 4 or 5 verses explaining Krishna and his incarnation. All the other incarnations had 1 verse each, but Krishna got 4 or 5. But then in the ninth canto, the same thing happens. Same thing happens. Sukadeva is explaining the dynasties and how everybody is coming about, and then when he gets to Krishna, 4 or 5 verses. That was it. Now, if you look at the reaction of Parikshit in both circumstances, they were completely different. Completely different. Well, not completely. It was 7 days only. Maybe there was a 5-day. But there is a change. You can notice a change if you're astute. And that's why when we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, we may be on the very early time. This may all be very wondrous to us to hear about these amazing things. Soon you'll be hearing about these incarnations that we have a hard time even conceiving of. But as you go through it, you will get the taste will increase. It will increase more and more and more. And that's really the topic of today's class, is increasing that taste. And so the thing was, Parikshit Maharaj heard those 5 verses, but he had a whole list of questions. How is material energy made? How is the time, how is the time influence this and that? And he's asking about the universal creation and Prakriti and all the different influences, and tell me about Krishna. So that was after the 4 verses of hearing about Krishna. He was interested in a lot of things. But at the 9th canto, again, when he heard about this whole dynasties, name after name after name after name after name, and dynasty, and generation after generation after generation, got 4 verses on Lord Krishna. And his
questions completely change. I only want to hear about that Lord Krishna. Nothing. Please tell. And that by hearing that, that is the bovoshaya. That's the medicine. That is the true medicine for me to become cured of my material attachments. And so when when we get a glimpse into the feelings of these devotees when we're hearing about them, we should try to see, you know, what is stopping me from experiencing those feelings, or how do I experience such a thing? And so this very section of Srimad Bhagavatam is helping us. If we're attuned to it, if we notice it. Sometimes we don't notice it. We'll read through, just like the last class, I assume you went through a whole list of the Yadus, right? Charadesh, Ridika, all these great person, and we may not. They're just names. Their names are very difficult to pronounce. That's basically all I really got from that, is that they're very difficult to pronounce, and I don't know what they mean. But when you go through it, when you go through the Bhagavatam and again, you'll start to know, oh, I know who Aniruddha was. I know who Pradyumna was. I know who Hridika was. I know who Charadeshnu, and all these persons. So Vidura is approaching Uddhava. Vidura knew that the battle of Kurukshetra happened. I'm sure you heard some of this history. He knew the battle of Kurukshetra happened and Yudhisthira was in rank, but he was still on pilgrimage. And that pilgrimage lasted maybe 35, 37 years. What, sometimes we think, oh, this was just like the other day, right? He got left and kicked out of the palace. No, 37, 35 years was the reign of Yudhisthira. And so he had heard everything is going well. And so he even acknowledged that to Uddhava. But then he said, but what about the Yadus? The Yadus weren't involved in the war, so they were still existing. What happened to them? And so take a moment now. I'm going to help you try to enter these next 6 verses. Take a moment and shut your eyes for a moment. I won't be taking anything. Adi Sham is here on guard. He is our temple commander. He will make sure I don't take anything. But close your eyes and just take a couple deep breaths and try to clear your mind of thoughts. And then think of someone in your life who may have been, and I'm talking past tense, who may have been a very strong influence in your life, who are no longer present. Sorry, I'm not trying to make you cry, but you may, and that's okay. All of our eyes are closed, so we won't even tell. But fine, and it could be a grandparent, it could be a parent, it could be an elder brother, sibling, brother or sister, or it could be somebody that we have contact with in our Krishna conscious journey, and they are a great influence on you, but they are no longer there, no longer. And it may be something that is only known to you. And so think of that person, hold them in your heart for a moment, and then imagine somebody coming up to you and saying, oh, how is that person? How is that person? Can you tell me how they're doing? And then that feeling you're feeling right now at this moment, this is what Uddhava is about to feel. After Vidura asked this question of all these persons, and all these persons are now gone with the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. And so these verses are there to give us that glimpse of what this feeling is. And when that feeling is in relation to Krishna, and this is called Kamutya Naya. Naya is a logic, or understanding things through logic, and the Kamutya is you look at one thing, but the other thing is so far away that how can we even compare them? And this is applied when we hear that Putana was a demon who was killed by Krishna. She was given the position of a nurse of Krishna. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this is an example of Kamutinaya, that what to speak of those who love Krishna. Putana got this great position just because she offered her breast in a very inimical way to Krishna. But Krishna took the bright side. Krishna took and elevated that person so greatly. What to speak of Mother Yasoda, who offers her breast to Krishna in great love and attention. So this this is what we're going to be touching when we hear the reaction of Uddhava to all these questions of Vidura. And we're going to focus on verse 6, but I'll just read the first few. Sukadeva Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord. So we just did a little exercise, and at that moment of deep thought of that person, if I were to ask you, oh, how is that person doing? You wouldn't be able to answer immediately because you're in deep thought of them. And so, especially when Vidura asks you to, Uddhava, what have you learned from Krishna? And Uddhava is right now at this moment, in this, if we open this, and this is the movie screen, Uddhava just left Lord Krishna's presence, and he is walking to Badarikashram because he was ordered by Krishna to go there. But he had just been sitting with Krishna, and Krishna was giving him transcendental knowledge, which is the whole 11th canto, practically speaking. And so you can just imagine Uddhava when he's been asked, "Oh, how is Lord Krishna's family? The Yadus, of course, they're all dead. And how is Lord Krishna? Krishna just left. How is Lord Krishna who gave you such transcendental?" He's thinking it's like excessive anxiety, just remembering that he was one. And so here's a little glimpse of how qualified Uddhava was. He was one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of the Lord Krishna, that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. So when we're absorbed in something, we have these little maybe anecdotes of things when we're absorbed in something, and all of a sudden we look up, oh my God, I'm late, and we have to rush off to the next thing. We have this sometimes at the end of class. We keep talking, but we go over time. 3. Uddhava thus served the Lord continually from childhood, and in his old age, that attitude of service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him. So when I asked you that, you probably remembered this person in your life. You probably remembered a lot of interactions you had with them. In their, your good, all those good things that you had. So Uddhava is remembering this, and he's remembering. So he just sat with Krishna and he spoke the whole Uddhava Gita. But another time, Krishna sent him to learn from another person. Who did Krishna send him to learn from? The gopis. Oh, Uddhava, I need to get a message to the gopis. And Krishna had just left Vrindavan. I need to get a message. Uddhava was known as such a learned personality. He was the disciple of Brihaspati, who has full grasp of knowledge, of all the branches of knowledge. but he didn't have uh, what Vishwanath calls the rasa tattva. He didn't understand the relationships of Krishna and his topmost devotees. So I will send him there to learn about that, and it's a whole magical occurrence. For a moment, he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. Just imagine, just thinking of Krishna, all the things that Krishna has done for him. He became absorbed in the nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into that ecstasy. On the journey, he wasn't there anymore, practically speaking. Wasn't there anymore. It was so absurd, and you can just imagine Vidura observing this, sitting there. Oh, tell me about, devotees will remember instances when Prabhupada would have the same type of occurrence, when he would just stop at a portion of the class, be gazing off. He was somewhere else. He was having an experience like this. It was so observed by Vidura that Uddhava had all the transcendental bodily changes due to total ecstasy, and he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. Thus, Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord. It's quite a complicated line. What does completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord mean? What does it mean to me? What could it mean just grammatically? But Vidura could tell this person is different. He is completely absorbed in Krishna. Time is running out. Prabhupada says in that purport that Vidura was able to confirm that Uddhava was in the perfectional stage of devotional service. So it doesn't mean that we have to obtain 4 arms and we can float and we're shining effulgent. It's just the amount of how can we become absorbed? How much absorption in Krishna can one take? Can one engage in? Of course, these are very elevated situations. But, and Prabhupada very encouragingly says, gradually we do this. How do we do it? By hearing and chanting. Same activities that Uddhava, that Sukadev, that Parikshit, that Mother Yasoda, that Krishna's Brajajanas, all the Brajajanas, they're all engaged in hearing and chanting about Krishna. So he says, the more one is cleansed of impurities, and the impurities are cleansed, we say Cheto Darpana Marjanam, we are cleansing the mirror of our mind. The activities are being cleansed by our practice. So we come here every day, we chant, we gather together, we chant, we glorify the deities, we glorify Prabhupada, we glorify the devotees, and we're cleansing every step of it. Every time we do it, we're cleansing a little bit more. And gradually, the more we become cleansed of those impurities, the more we become fixed. So like the first couple days, we may I woke up late. After 2 weeks or so, we may okay, I need an alarm clock. Let me get the alarm clock. Let me get up. But then after a while, you really start to get into a role that, oh yeah. And if for whatever reason you miss a Mangalartik or a Guru Puja or chanting the japa with the devotees, you notice it. Oh, let me get back on track. And so that we become fixed by just doing it. You don't have to add some other element to okay, bind us to the chair so I don't leave. But no, it's just by doing it we become fixed ourselves gradually the activities, those activities of our practice, they take the form of steadiness, firm faith, taste, realization, assimilation, all these things that Vidura is witnessing in the body of Uddhava, seeing that. And then today's verse, we won't have time for chanting it, but I'll Shanakar Bhagaval Lokan Nirlokam Puna Agata Vimrija Netra Viduram Prityad Uddhava Utsmayan. The great devotee Uddhava soon came back from the abode of the Lord. So it's implying that Uddhava, as he was remembering, he was no longer there. He was in the abode of Lord Krishna, just by his remembering. And this chapter is called Remembrance of Lord Krishna. Now, it's very interesting to know that as he starts remembering Krishna, they're not just remembrances of his association, but they're remembrances of Krishna's life. And so what does that make you think? Is there anything you can draw from that? Wake you all up? Yes, Blake.
I just recently was coming across the idea that you can like enter into a memory, as in like instead of it's like imagining, it's like you can actually enter into it as like an actual thing. And to me, that's really interesting. That's what came up for me about it.
Yeah, yeah. We actually too can enter into those. As we're hearing, we can enter it. And this is why Sukadev Goswami, he couldn't even mention some of the names of the devotees in his talk to Parikshit. Because if he would have mentioned the name of Radha, he would not have been able to contain himself with so much love that would overflow. Overflowing is called Uchvasha. A whole section of songs Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings about this overflowing, overflooding. And even though we may not at this moment in time have any remembrance of having association with Krishna or with Srila Prabhupada or with others that we may endeavor to remember, by hearing about them, we can enter into it. There's an entrance. It is given to us. And so Uddhava, he is remembering all of Krishna's. He was remembering Krishna's birth. He wasn't there at that. He was remembering Krishna lifting over downhill. He wasn't there for that, but he's hearing it, and then he's transported. And so the correlation is that, if we attentively hear, if we attentively continue to hear over and over Krishna's pastimes, perhaps we can also have that strong, that like overwhelming intensity of remembrance or love or absorption, being absorbed in Krishna. The great devotee Uddhava soon came back from the abode of the Lord to the human plane, and wiping his eyes, he awakened his reminiscence of the past and spoke to Vidura in a pleasing mood. So he's about to now, for 2 chapters, we're going to hear like a condensed Krishna book. And it'll be, it'll be an opportunity for us to kind of test out this absorption. How much can I get absorbed in just hearing about Krishna? Of course, within that, Sukadev and Srila Prabhupada helps us by also giving us tattva or some knowledge of it, like understanding why does Krishna come. So he starts first with Krishna's appearance. And then this purport is extraordinary. When Uddhava was fully absorbed in the transcendental ecstasy of love of God, he actually forgot all about the external world. When we do things, when we go to a Jamasmi festival, or if we have a 12-hour kirtan, or if we go to the Holy Dham, or we do go to something where it's just like all the senses are just being, uh, fully enriched by the surroundings, by the sounds, by the smells, by the absorption of others. All of a sudden we almost like lose track where we're at. A lot of time, for those devotees who are fortunate, who are able to go to a holy dham or to a festival that is so engrossing that there's no gadget hanging off of you, knocking on your head door all the time, and all of that is gone. When you come back out of that, it's like there's culture shock, practically speaking. Like if you sit, and sometimes we have 12-hour kirtans or there's 6-hour kirtans in Alach. If you sit in a kirtan for like 12 hours and you leave the kirtan after, because it's done, you haven't left for any other reason, but it's done. You're like in your head, you're hearing the kirtans. You're just like, whoa! You kind of walk out in the street, and it's dark out, and it's like, whoa, where is this Gainesville still, or it's amazing how we can, these little experiments we're given opportunity to do, like a Jamashtami festival. We can engage the whole day in serving just Krishna. And it's like, yes, we acknowledge I'm not yet ready to fully do that every day of my life because I have attachments and I have duties and I have responsibilities and all this. But when we do enter into those times and fully apply ourselves, boy, we get a taste that nobody can say, oh, why do you believe in Krishna? It's hard to say, but when I engage in his service, I am somewhere else. I have an experience that I can't explain. And that's just the first line of this amazing purport. You have to read this whole purport. The devotees lives constantly in the abode of the Supreme Lord. So as we purify ourselves and we become purified, we actually, and this is one of the parameters, and this is within the Uddhava Gita itself, Krishna's message to Uddhava, Bhakti Parishanubhava Veritir. Bhakti, devotion. When we are engaged in Krishna's service, three things happen automatically. We get devotion for Krishna. Be like, oh, I really, for a time there's practice. We got to do it. We come in, we can do it. But then it's like, oh, what can I do? Can I bring an extra flower? Somebody brought a nice yellow rose today for Goni Tai's feet. And can I bring an extra flower? Or when I go somewhere, if I'm going to the temple, let me bring something. Devotion automatically increases as we perform our sadhana, as our duties. And then Parishanubhava. Parisha, the Krishna is the Ishvara, he's the controller of all. He's the Parameshvara. And Anubhava means we perceive him everywhere, in everything. And again, in Kunti's prayers, Anta Bahir Avashtitam. He is within everything. He is without everything. And so the devotee, as we're engaging Krishna's service, we see everything in that light through the, it's called Chakshu Shastra, Shastra Chakshu, seeing through the eyes of our knowledge of the scriptures, of what we've learned and what we've realized. And so when we see things in the world, we see a beautiful scene of like a mountainous. Oh, we see Krishna. When we see a very dirty city, we can say, okay, this is Krishna's material energy working at its best. Wow, look at all these things. Whoa, and then we get scared, and then we, but that's Parisha Bhava. And then the third thing is Viraktir. We renounce. We become easily to give up those things that are kind of holding on. So those three things are happening as we're engaging in devotional service. And then the more that Viraktir is happening, then the more we're engaging in service. And then the more we push it more aside. And so it's a gradual thing. And again, Rupa Goswami repeats the word kramana. It is a step by step, it is a gradual process. And so gradually by chanting Hare Krishna, by engaging in Nama Kirtan Charita, as we perform in those kirtans and chanting and with attention, we want to be not mindlessly chanting, not mindlessly doing these things, but with attention we're doing them, and gradually these things just become a part of it. Oh, I have devotion. It's Radhastami coming up. What can I do for Radha? Oh, it's Kartik is coming up. Oh, it's Gorpani. All these things will just naturally, these will bloom in you. And you forget about the world. They live constantly in that. So the pure devotees, they're living constantly in that. What else? What else is there? Even in the present body, which apparently belongs to this world, and we can say, yeah, well, it is flesh and it is bones. It's made up of atoms, molecules, microcondy, all these things. It's all there, but it's not who we are. And we saw Uddhava's reaction. He went somewhere else. He was in his body. You could say Vidura was observing him sitting there, but he was gone. He wasn't there. The pure devotee is not exactly on the bodily plane, since they are absorbed in the transcendental thought of the Supreme. When Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura, he came down from the abode of the Lord, Dwarka, to the material plane of human beings. So he had to he was gone. When he was asked about Krishna and he remembered Krishna, he was gone. But then Vidura was sitting there like, can I ask you some questions? but Uddhava, yeah. And then the rest of this purport is the Bhakti Lata Bij of Lord Chaitanya's teaching to Rupa Goswami, that in our heart we have the seed of devotion is there, and it is a Bhakti Viraktir. It is part of us. It is not that we're imposing something new upon us, but devotion and devotional service is actually part of our self, our being, but it's in a seed form, and we haven't really taken care of it. You know, you can have seeds that last for years and years and years, and they're just sitting in a packet. And then you take them out and you put them in the right situation. All of a sudden, they bloom and they create so much wonderful things. And so that's where we're at right now. We're all little tiny seeds, and we have little sprouts. And the process for how do you take care of a seed in a garden? Give it nice nutrients, you water it, you take care of it. So we have to do the same thing with our practices, our devotional service, taking care of it, and it grows. And then when we start seeing it grow, we actually, if anybody's done some gardening in their lives, you know, I did a lot earlier. I haven't been able to do a lot now, but I hope to in retirement have some more time gardening. But when you see it grow, it's like you get so excited. You get so excited. Oh yeah. And then when you start seeing it go and you start giving fruits, you're like, oh, and then you take that and you offer it to Krishna. It's like, wow, I didn't have to go to Publix for this. Amazing. And you feel so satisfied. And so that's the process. Our devotional service is like this vine growing, and that vine is said to take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. And then when that happens, that goes back to the last purport. Gradually, we become those activities take the form of steadiness and firm faith. So if anybody knows a little bit about agriculture and vining plants, they are called coloniferous. That means that they can, just by a clipping of it, you can plant it and it grows another one. And so you'll see these, most of our mothers probably had a spider plant in their house, right? Because they're the easiest things, you can't kill them, and they just grow and they put off this thing, and then another one is there. You just take that and put it in another pot, and then it starts growing. It's almost invasive, but that's what happens when we're watering this creeper that is going up. It cracks the universal shell as described by Lord Chaitanya. It cracks and it takes shelter and entwines itself around the lotus feet of Krishna. And then those coloniferous roots, they take root there. And when they take root, that is called nishta. That is called steadiness. That once it's re-rooted, if anything happens to that plant in the material world, if we die, if we get sick, it doesn't matter anymore because it is rooted, fully absorbed in Krishna at Krishna's feet. And so that's an aspiration. You could say that is quite an aspiration, just by hearing about Uddhava, how he did that in his absorbed life. Of course, he had service to do at this point. He was ordered by Lord because he really wanted to just go with Lord Krishna. And he was, I think there's a few other verses. Actually, it was in the 11th canto that his heart was breaking. His heart was breaking. He didn't want to stay without Krishna. And can we aspire that someday I don't want to do anything other than do some service for Krishna and for the devotees? That's an aspiration. We gain aspirations, and that's what our Srimad Bhagavatam study should be. We get these little things at each class. We get some. What can I take away from this? How can I apply this in my life? Okay, let me try. Let me try some absorption in Krishna. But I was warned in the beginning that we have to end at 8:30, so it is 8:30. So thank you very much. If there's any questions, you know where I live, so. Hare Krishna.